we want to get to that addiction point where it's like, oh my God, I just ran through like 30 high quality cases in a 10-hour time period. And I can't think about anything else other than going back to work because that was awesome.
Yesterday was like a prime example of that. And again, I feel like because I almost get like, before my like head pops off my body and starts like, exorcism, like spinning around, it like energizes me briefly. And I get like a little like boost of speed.
Now you're getting the addiction, Caroline.
Yeah. It can be kind of frustrating too, because your mind works faster than your body. And so you're trying to execute tasks at like a level that you're like, but I just wish I could write faster, or I just wish I could run faster.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. See, and then and then you meet that with our model of having 1 to 6. So it's 1 veterinarian to 6 medical support staff.
Yep.
That's the ultimate goal for us, not including clerical staff, because actually the clerical process is almost entirely independent of the veterinary team. I mean, really. Making sure patients coming and checking out, so on and so forth. But at least as far as like the medical direction that a veterinarian needs to provide, that's how you start running faster. And then the addiction gets worse, where you're like, oh man, I just ran through 30 cases in that 10-hour time period. That felt fantastic.
Yeah.
Can I make it 35?
Yeah.
And we're talking not a numbers game on quantity. We're talking about maintaining a high level of quality with the quantity. That's the addiction.
Correct. Right.
Because if you, and this is where
it's how many plates can you keep spinning in the air at the same time?
100%. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And that's the fun part. That's why, again, for us, we're scaling up the way that we are. And again, we have to get the diagram online. I did take a picture of it, and I will develop it. But
it'll be up.
It will be. Is the quantity and quality grid on the quantity and quality grid. One of the things that I identified is if that you are in a practice where it is relatively low quality and relatively low quantity, the first thing you want to do is get your quality high. You don't want to take on additional quantity until quality goes up, because when you have a high level of quality, you have a natural growth process where quantity is going to increase. Unmarketed, non-engaged growth is going to happen as quality goes up. So if you look at the model where it's like, okay, quality goes up and then quantity starts to increase, your quality is naturally going to drop simply because quantity is increasing naturally. You're not trying to, you're just seeing more cases because you're doing a better job. That's basically been our model, is saying that as quantity goes up, I'm already planning on quality coming down. So all we have to do is just plan to increase and maintain quality once quantity increases. So that's the design that you are essentially seeing and working in, Caroline, is like, yes, we want to get to that addiction point where it's like, oh my God, I just ran through like 30 high quality cases in a 10-hour time period. And I can't think about anything else other than going back to work because that was awesome, So that's that.
That plays almost directly into kind of where this started too, because that's what that feeding, that desire is just fulfillment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Like to be able to do that, to fulfill high quantity and high quality for many, many people across many types of values too, right?
Sure.
Can be very, very fulfilling. There's actually not much. I mean, it probably hits 5 of them where I know it hits aesthetic, right? Because you created harmony, right? In medical care.
Yep.
It hits economic because you're really just hammering out numbers.
Yep.
It hits theoretical because you're seeing a higher caseload and you're learning more. Like it hits a lot of different stuff.
And they're complicated cases. It's not like it's anywhere from like, geriatric pets with multiple chronic diseases to like laceration repair.
Right.
So it's, yeah.
So I guess let me let me just kind of twist that just a little bit. So you had a Monday explosion in not in our setting, in a different practice, to then say, okay, look at how we ran out like Saturday. Like Saturday for you and Katie was absolute bonkers. But can you compare sort of those two things, like your crazy Monday versus the crazy Saturday? So Monday in a different clinic, Saturday in our clinic. Would you be able to draw some type of correlation between the amount of cases that we saw to the quality or sort of the engagement? Or I mean, what was your perspective on those two different settings?
Well, it was definitely interesting trying to like integrate some of the like PAW, like the spinning plates into like a very structured system.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And not that our system isn't structured, but it's all triage based.
Yep.
And in a typical GP practice, it's all appointment time based.
Yep.
So
go ahead. Yep.
So the part of the difficulty with that is that like the person that's making the decision for how much time you have to work with this critically ill patient is all based off of what the owner says on the phone when they call and how much time the receptionist chooses to give you.
Yeah,
the doctor plays no part in that triage order.
Sure. Yep.
And so I got kind of lucky yesterday because one of my very critically ill patients that I was managing came in just before lunch. And so I had extra time to like bleed over into the lunch period, but it meant that like my technician who was supposed to have her break and her lunch didn't get her full lunch break. And so, obviously
you did just break Ben's brain, by the way.
Yeah. Can we go back?
Ben's like rubbing his eyes and head. He's just like, and I'm just shaking my head at him. Yes.
So context, this is Caroline, you're already aware of this, but for those that are listening or watching, I have zero experience in other veterinary clinics.
Yeah.
So you're like, that's why I acknowledge not only have I fully consumed all the Kool-Aid, right. I've also learned how to brew it, and I'm trying to get it to other people.
Right. You're making kombucha now?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, kombucha. Right.
So can you explain that triage and scheduling process one more time for me? Because I'm really confused.
Yeah. So this is to interject there real quick. Ben, I just want you to understand that this is how it is everywhere else. So Caroline, continue. Go ahead.
So, I mean, in like a typical GP setting, it's all appointment based. So people like similar to like your doctor's office, I guess, because at your like normal GP doctor's office, if you call and say, I would like to schedule my physical with my doctor at X time, you go in, you get there at your time. They usually still see you like 20 minutes late, but whatever. And then if it's something more complicated or requires more testing, they're like, oh, you need to go to urgent care. You need to go to the ER. You need to go to wherever, where it then becomes triage based.
Right.
But instead, like in vet med, in a GP, it's like you're still trying to adhere to this schedule. And so when people call in and they make appointments for things, the receptionists, the people working up front, so we would call them caregiver support staff.
Yep.
They take the call and the caregiver says, oh, I have like my cat's been vomiting. Mm-hmm. And the receptionist then like they do have some like
some guidelines. It's like, oh, I'm gonna give you 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like ours is like it's like staggered. So you have like vaccine appointments that are staggered in with what we call sick appointments. Mm-hmm. So like some of the time blocks are longer than others, but they basically like decide, oh, the patient's vomiting, so maybe the doctor will want to do x-rays. So we'll give them like 40 minutes.
Okay,
and that's all on the phone call pre-consultation,
right?
Non-present.
Correct. Yeah. So like me as the doctor, I come in on Monday morning and I read through my schedule and I do try to read through the histories, but all I have to go off of is like you on the board, you with like when you're up front and you type in those little notes in the box that says like why the patient is presenting today. Mm-hmm. That's what I go off of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the case that I had yesterday was a very ill cat who was having difficulty breathing. And I think they had blocked me like maybe 40 minutes just before lunch.
Right.
And
which could span anything from an upper respiratory infection to congestive heart failure to pleural effusion.
Correct.
Like, because
Right.
it's again solely based upon the perception of the person who is making the call and the understanding of the person receiving the call. In many circumstances, neither individuals have any medical information like training.
And that's why
Right.
telemedicine will never work in veterinary medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
'Cause you can't ask the cat, like, how sick are you?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's standard though.
Yeah, that's like
That's
practically. I mean, with maybe a slight variation from one clinic to the next.
Your
that's-
referral centers
Yeah.
probably don't operate like that
No,
for
no,
the
no.
most part.
No, well, I would say they even may swing a little bit into that direction. And that's actually one of the big issues with a lot of your internists.
Yep.
So a lot of your referral centers will have one or two, rarely above two internists, and so the internists want to. And I wouldn't say surgeons as well. I'm not just singling out internists. That's more common. Is they'll have their scheduled appointments. Oh, I've had this cat for IBS who's been scheduled for 3 weeks, and then emergency brings in another patient overnight who needs an internal med consultation.
Mm-hmm.
So then that overnight patient that was hospitalized by ER now has the expectation of an internal med consult the following day, who may be booked up with appointments from the last 3 weeks on scheduled stuff. So I wouldn't even go as far as to say that in referral settings, you have exclusively a triage basis outside of the emergency rotations, because then it's a hybrid of both a scheduled environment and a walk-in environment or triage environment, which still overlap when you get to one of the other services. So but still it's a perpetuation of an old style of medicine. It's or old
antiquated business practice.
Antiquated business practices.
So, hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you want to watch this full podcast, go ahead and click up here. If you want to watch our newest podcast, go ahead and click down here. And if you want to subscribe to see everything else that we do, go ahead and click right here. Thanks.